What happens to your stuff after an arrest? You see, you get arrested, the police take your personal property, maybe your wallet, phone, car, even cash, and then suddenly you're left wondering, how do I get my stuff back? I'm Joel Chorny, a criminal defense attorney here in Tucson, Arizona, and in this video, I'm going to explain exactly how to retrieve your personal property after an arrest, step by step, so you know what to expect and how to protect your rights. So let's get into it. But before we do, a quick disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Every case is different and laws may vary depending on where you are. I'm licensed to practice in law in Arizona, so my advice is based on Arizona law. If you're outside of Arizona, I recommend speaking with an attorney in your jurisdiction. So, we're trying to get our stuff back after an arrest. Step one is contacting the arresting officer or case officer. The first thing you need to do is reach out to the officer handling your case. If you don't know who that is, you can contact the law enforcement agency involved in your arrest and give them your case number. That case number will help them track down your property faster and give you an update on the status. Step two is determining the status of your property. Once you've made contact with the officer, he or she will tell you why your property is being held. It's usually one of three things. It's either being held as evidence, in which case your property is tied to an open case and they might hold on to it until the case is resolved, or two, subject to forfeiture. If they believe your property was used in a crime or obtained illegally, it could be subject to forfeiture. Or third option is that it is ready for release, and if it's not part of an investigation, they should release it to you. Understanding this step is important because if it's being held as evidence or forfeiture, it's not as simple as just picking it up. The third step in the process is waiting for the case resolution if necessary. If your property is being held as evidence, you might need to wait until the case is over before you can get it back. If it's part of a criminal case, you may have to wait until the trial is over or the charges are dropped. If it's part of a forfeiture case, you might need to actively fight for it in court. This is where having an attorney can make a big difference in the outcome. The fourth step in this process is submitting a request for release form. Even if the court orders the release of your property, the officer handling your case still has to fill out a request for release form and submit it to the evidence unit. That's right, even with a court order, the paperwork has to be processed. This is one of those frustrating bureaucratic steps where following up and staying on top of it matters. The fifth step in this process is proving ownership and legality. The next thing you'll need to do is show that the property is actually yours and that you're legally allowed to have it. For personal items, a receipt or registration usually works. For firearms, you might need to pass a background check or show proof of lawful possession. For a vehicle, you'll need the title or registration. If you can't prove ownership, or if the item itself is illegal to possess, you could hit a roadblock there and you won't be able to get it back. The sixth step in this process is attending a hearing or filing a motion, if necessary. If the police refuse to release your property, you might need to take legal action. For impounded vehicles, you usually have 10 days to request a hearing. For property that is held as evidence, you can file a motion for the return of the property with the court. And for forfeiture cases, you might need to challenge the forfeiture directly. This is where having an attorney who understands Arizona search and seizure law can really help cut through all that red tape. Step 7 is paying any fees. If your property is impounded, especially if it was a vehicle, you might have to pay to get it back. There will be towing fees, storage fees, administrative costs. These fees can add up quickly, so it's important to handle this as soon as possible. The eighth step in this process is actually collecting your property. Once everything is approved, you can finally pick up your property. You'll need to bring a valid ID, which usually is a driver's license or state ID, and you'll also need to bring any documentation that the agency requires in order to return your property to you, such as a court order or release form. At this point, you're in the clear, but getting to this step isn't always easy. So let's talk a little bit about why having a lawyer is so helpful in a situation like this. The truth is that police don't always make this process easy. If they refuse to release your property, if they're holding it without a valid reason, or if they claim it's subject to forfeiture, an experienced criminal defense attorney can step in and file the right motions, challenge the forfeiture, and make sure your rights are protected. That's what I do for my clients. If you're struggling to get your property back, you don't have to figure it out alone. So a few final thoughts. Getting your property back after an arrest can be frustrating, but knowing your rights is the first step. If you've been through this or you're dealing with it right now, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about your experience. If you found this helpful, please hit like and subscribe and keep joining me for other videos where I'll be covering more legal issues like this and other things having to do with your rights. If you need legal advice about getting your property back, call my office today at this number, or you can check out my website. I'm here to help. Stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.